I can walk on the water. I can give life back to the dead. I can tell you what you got how much you got in your pocket, and I can give you every number of every notes that you have in your pocket. Will you accept me as your God? No, the man says no. So how does he do it? So look, I don't know. You say, I don't know. You know, he's got some magic powers. Maybe he's got some jinns under his control, and they go and tell him, oh, there's some other setup going on between this guy and whatever I'm telling you. But when you look at the man, he says, no, this is the man. I can see this man is about 70 years old. Before 70, he wasn't here. After, he won't be here for another 70. That's guaranteed. If I had a gun, I can shoot him. I can strangle him. No. All these thoughts go through your mind. He's a man, he's a man, he's a man. No man what he can do. What great performer of miracles the man he is, but he is no God. This is the intellectual level that mankind is supposed to have reached. He says, he assumes that this is what mankind is now. No more. Then he says, how did it happen? That people are accepting human beings as gods. He says, nay, we may rationally ask. Thomas Carlyle says, nay, we may rationally ask, did any set of human beings ever really think that the man they saw there beside them, a God, the maker of this world? Did they, any set of human beings, at any time in the history of man, the people who abducted Sita, you know, Rama, the God of my ancestors, his wife Sita was abducted by Ravana, the king of Ceylon. Did he think when he abducted this woman that he was abducting the wife of his God? Did he? No. When the Pandavas went to fight Krishna, did they think they're fighting a God? No. When the Roman soldier punched Jesus in the stomach at the trial and says, come on, prophesy, who hit you? Come on, tell me what's my name. Did he think that he was hitting his God, punching his God? No. When the other soldier supposed to have lanced him on the side with a spear, did he think he was lancing his God? The answer is no. The contemporaries, how did it happen? He says, no. The way is, we are now living 2,000 years after the event, and people, when they read the stories, it sounds like fairy tales. This is, man, it could have happened. You know, he was floating about, here, there, everywhere. You know, he's here, he's there, he's everywhere. Like Ahmed Deedat. You know, I was here about a week ago. You know that? No, that's 19th of June. It seems like yesterday, no? See? And then he said, look, the guy was there, and he was here, and he was in Birmingham, and shh. But you know how it's happening. He says, I left Birmingham this morning, I came here, I'll be back again tonight, tomorrow I'm in Blackburn, and next night I'm in Bradford, and then I'm back home, and I'm here, there, and back again. But now you know how it's happening. I'm not a ghost. I'm not a spook. Look, I need transport, this, that, everything to make all these things possible. But the man said, well, I saw him in Birmingham yesterday, man. I said, no, I saw him in Bradford. That guy said, I went through 5 countries in one day by car. And back, 5 countries I went through. In one day. Can you imagine? It was in the UAE. So I was traveling with a car from Abu Dhabi to Dubai, to Sharjah, to 5 countries. There are 7 little states, city-states. I went through 5 countries in one day and back again. What was I? The spook? The ghost? No. I said, look, this is how I went in a car, good car. I was going to do a certain job at the end of this UAE, and I had to come back again. So, but now, when you are reading the stories, like a fairy tale in the book, the Bible, is like a fairy tale. So when you read something like a fairy tale, you have a right to assume that this is myth. It's a fairy tale. Jeffrey Hunter, I don't know if you know his name, Jeffrey Hunter, he acted as Christ in one of these films called Jesus, this is The Day of Triumph. That was a film about Jesus. He had to walk up the hill. They took this shooting, they did it in Jerusalem, Mount Zion, outside Jerusalem. And for the filming, they had to make him to walk up the hill. And he walked up the hill and panting for breath and sweating. He's a Christian, good Christian. When he went through this, acting Christ, he said, you know, for the first time in my life, I realized how human Jesus was. But look, if he walked these hills, he must have also been panting for breath and sweating. Then I realized that how human Jesus was. Otherwise you think he is a Superman. Something more than Superman, what Superman does on your films, Superman 1, 2, and 3. This Jesus was doing all that sort of things, like a mythology. So, the Quran comes to testify. In the ayah I read to you, from Surah Nisa. Surah Nisa. And it is a good practice, I'm suggesting, recommending to my brothers and sisters, that when anybody makes reference to the Quran and he gives you the reference, make a habit of going home and checking up. Not that you distrust the speaker, you think the guy is pulling a fast one on you, he's lying. No. If you go and check it up at home, you read it again, it will refresh your memory, and that part of knowledge which you are rehearsing, it will become your property. Once it becomes your property, you can share it with others. Otherwise, this is good entertainment. This is all good entertainment. Good entertainment. Instead of wasting time in front of the TV, this is better TV, you see, be that in live, you see. If you have a translation like this particular one here, this is by Abdullah Yusuf Ali. I noticed that our brothers from Birmingham had taken the trouble to bring some over. This Yusuf Ali translation. You owe it to yourself and your children to have this in the house. It will improve your English, you'll have better understanding of Allah's kalam, what Allah wants, and everything on your fingertips, whatever you want to know. You don't have to start fumbling. In this book, everything, you will know about marriage and the M, you will know about divorce and the D, you will know about talaq. Look up, talaq, just like that, everything, what you want to know. Don't start going around and say talaq, talaq, talaq. Go and look up what Allah says, how to do the job if you must. Look, it's there. But we don't consult the book. We have even heard from our fathers that when you get angry with your wife, what do you say? Talaq, talaq, talaq. And then you cry. So you go to the sheikh. I don't know about our Arab sheikhs, but in my country, the Indian alims, they say you make halalu. Halalu. This halalu. He says, now this woman of yours, this ex-wife of yours, not because you said talaq, talaq is finished, now she must marry another old man, stay with him at least for a night. At least they must go into a place, position where they can have a relationship. That's a must. Then he must divorce again, and then you remarry her. I said, look, you fool, you made the mistake. Why punish the poor woman? What has she done? She is an innocent victim. Where's your sense, man? But no, you go through all this filth and dirt, filthiest, dirtiest thing that you can imagine, and you think you are a good Muslim because you didn't read the book. What do you want to know? You want to know about Jesus? Under J, open Jesus. See what he says. His birth. Open it and see. Wallah, everything on your fingertips. The birth of Jesus is described here. Whole chapter is dedicated. Surah Maryam, chapter Mary, chapter 19. The Christians have taken out a pamphlet. They said, Jesus is spoken of in the highest terms, 13 different places, different titles. And they are challenging the Muslims to produce another personality with any of those 13 2 times to any person. I haven't tried. No need to. Now the question arises, look, all this about Jesus, that he is the word, the kalima, which Allah bestowed upon Mary, that he is the Masih, the Messiah, his ruh, his day. All these beautiful titles for Jesus, for Jesus, for Jesus. And a whole chapter, named after his mother, Maryam. So you see, this man, he deserves to be worshipped. He's God. Now, why is it that Allah mentions Jesus to that extent? Why is it that his mother's name has to be exonerated? That she is a virtuous woman? Why? Can you tell me? Tell me, why? Why so much about Jesus in the Quran and not about Muhammad? Why? Tell me, don't be afraid. Guess. Why? Yes, brother.
Because the Christians have a problem of finding out who Jesus really was.
Anybody else? Yes, my son.
Because the Christians say Jesus is son of God.
No, you see, there are so many allegations. There are so many allegations about Jesus and his mother, which needs to be